It was Tuesday night in Rockefeller Center, and The Tonight Show was taping its regular episode. Jennifer Lawrence sat across from Jimmy's desk, radiant in a midnight blue dress, her blonde hair catching the studio lights perfectly. She'd been telling a hilarious story about accidentally walking into the wrong hotel room during her press tour, complete with dramatic reenactments that had the audience in stitches. The laughter stopped mid-sentence. Jennifer Lawrence froze with her mouth half open, her trademark smile vanishing as if someone had flipped a switch. For the first time in Tonight Show history, Jimmy Fallon watched a guest completely forget they were on television. What happened next turned a comedy interview into something nobody in Studio 6B would ever forget. So there I am, in my pajamas, face to face with this elderly man brushing his teeth. Jennifer laughed, gesturing wildly with her hands in that endearing way that made her America's sweetheart. And he just looks at me and goes, "Room service is getting really personal these days." The studio erupted. Jimmy doubled over laughing. The Roots were cracking up behind their instruments. Even the camera operators were shaking with silent laughter behind their equipment. This was classic Jennifer Lawrence, unfiltered, relatable, absolutely magnetic. But in row C, seat 14, 16-year-old Maya Chen wasn't laughing. She sat perfectly still between her foster parents, David and Sarah Mitchell, clutching a small folded paper in her hands. Her dark eyes were fixed on Jennifer with an intensity that seemed to cut through all the studio noise and bright lights. Maya had been in the foster care system for 8 years, ever since her parents died in a car accident when she was 8. She'd lived in 12 different homes, attended 9 different schools, and learned early that getting attached to people or places only led to heartbreak. The Mitchells were kind. They'd had her for 6 months now, but Maya had built walls so high that even kindness couldn't always reach her. What Sarah didn't know was that Maya had been carrying that folded paper for 3 weeks, ever since she'd written it, during a particularly dark night when the foster home felt more like a temporary stop than anything resembling home. Tonight was supposed to be special. Sarah Mitchell worked as a social worker and had somehow managed to get tickets to The Tonight Show as an early birthday gift for Maya. Every teenager loves celebrities, Sarah had reasoned. Maybe this will help her open up. Jennifer continued her story, building to the punchline about offering to clean the confused man's bathroom as an apology, when something made her pause. Maybe it was instincts. Maybe it was the way laughter sounds different when not everyone is participating. But her eyes began scanning the audience during the applause. That's when she saw Maya. The girl's expression was so serious, so intent, that it stood out like a still photograph in a room full of motion. Jennifer's comedic timing faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly, finishing her story to thunderous applause. "Miss Lawrence?" Maya's voice cut through the studio chatter like a knife through silk. Clear, young, carrying a weight that made everyone within earshot immediately pay attention. Jimmy was setting up the next segment about Jennifer's upcoming film when Maya stood up. Not dramatically, not trying to cause a scene. She simply rose from her seat with the quiet determination of someone who had made a decision. Security guards started moving toward Maya's section, but Jennifer held up a hand to stop them. Something in the girl's voice, something in her eyes, made Jennifer forget about television protocols, about keeping the show moving, about everything except this moment. The studio didn't fall silent all at once. It was more like a wave. The people nearest to Maya stopped talking first. Then the quiet spread row by row, until even the Roots had stopped their background music. Jimmy looked confused. Producers in the booth started whispering frantically into their headsets, and Jennifer Lawrence found herself staring at a teenage girl who looked like she was carrying the weight of the world. "Miss Lawrence," Maya repeated, her voice stronger now. "Can I ask you something?" Maya Chen. "I'm 16, and Maya's voice wavered for the first time. She looked down at the paper in her hands, then back up at Jennifer. "I need to ask you something important." "What's your name, sweetheart?" Jennifer asks, her voice automatically softening in the way it did when she talked to fans. Jimmy Fallon had hosted enough shows to know when something real was happening. This wasn't a planted bit, wasn't a planned surprise. This was a teenage girl who had something to say that couldn't wait. He made a decision that would define this moment. Maya took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her words carried across the studio with crystal clarity. What would you tell someone who feels like they don't belong anywhere? Someone who feels unwanted everywhere they go. Maya, Jimmy said gently, what do you want to ask? The question hung in the air like a prayer. Jennifer Lawrence, who had been joking and laughing moments before, felt something shift inside her chest. This wasn't about celebrity anymore. This wasn't about entertainment. This was about pain. The kind of pain she recognized because she'd carried it herself. Maya, she said, walking down the stage steps toward the audience. Can you tell me why you're asking that question? Maya's foster parents looked concerned, unsure whether they should intervene, but something in Jennifer's tone told them this was important. Maya unfolded the paper in her hands, a letter she'd written to herself on a particularly difficult night. Jennifer stood up slowly, her movements careful and deliberate. The studio lights seemed to soften around her as she stepped around Jimmy's desk, ignoring every protocol, every rule about staying in designated areas. Jennifer reached Maya's row, and without hesitation, she knelt down in the aisle beside the girl's seat. The cameras followed, but somehow it felt like the rest of the world had faded away. I wrote this 3 weeks ago, Maya said, her voice growing stronger as Jennifer got closer. After my social worker told me I might have to move again. After I realized that in 8 years, I've never stayed anywhere long enough to call it home. Read it to me, Jennifer said softly. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away from Maya. This was important. This was real. But then, Maya continued, I watch movies like The Hunger Games, and I see Katniss fighting for people who matter to her. And I think maybe I matter too. Maybe I just haven't found my district yet. Maya looked down at her letter, her hands trembling slightly. Dear Maya, she began, you are 16 years old today, and you still don't know where you belong. You've lived in 12 houses, but none of them felt like home. You've met hundreds of people, but most of them forget your name. Sometimes you wonder if anyone would notice if you just disappeared. That's when Jennifer Lawrence did something that broke every rule of television. She reached out and took Maya's hands in hers. Maya, she said, her voice thick with emotion, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me, okay? Maya nodded, tears starting to stream down her face. I used to think that belonging meant finding the right place or the right people, Jennifer continued. But I was wrong. Belonging isn't about other people accepting you. It's about you accepting yourself. And Maya, I see you. Really see you. And what I see is someone brave enough to ask hard questions. Someone strong enough to keep hoping even when hope feels impossible. When I was your age, I felt exactly the same way, Jennifer said. I moved around a lot too. Not like you. I can't imagine how hard that's been. But I never felt like I fit anywhere. I was too weird for the popular kids, too ambitious for the quiet kids, too different for pretty much everyone. The studio was completely silent now. Even the producers had stopped giving directions. This was humanity happening in real time. Maya, Jennifer said, pulling something from her purse. I want you to have this. It was a small silver necklace with a Mockingjay pendant. This was given to me by a fan years ago, and she told me to pass it on to someone who needed to remember they were strong enough to fly. That's you. Jennifer stood up and gently guided Maya to stand with her. You asked what I would tell someone who feels unwanted. Here's what I'd tell them. You are not unwanted. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are here for a reason, and your story matters. The applause started slowly, just Jimmy clapping from his desk. Then it grew, as the entire studio rose to their feet. But this wasn't typical television applause. This was recognition, gratitude, shared humanity. As Jennifer fastened the necklace around Maya's neck, the girl whispered something that the microphones barely picked up. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for reminding me what courage looks like," Jennifer whispered back. The rest of the interview was different after that. Jennifer and Maya sat together on the couch, talking about dreams, about resilience, about finding family in unexpected places. Maya's foster parents were crying in their seats, not from sadness, but from witnessing their daughter finally being seen for who she truly was. The episode became the most watched Tonight Show segment in years, not because of the celebrity guest, but because two people found each other in a room full of strangers. It reminded viewers that belonging isn't about finding the perfect place. It's about finding the courage to be perfectly yourself, wherever you are. When the show ended, Jennifer exchanged numbers with Maya and her foster family. 6 months later, Maya would send Jennifer a photo from her high school graduation. She was staying with the Mitchells, who had begun adoption proceedings. A year after that, Jennifer would attend Maya's 18th birthday party, not as a celebrity making an appearance, but as someone who understood that sometimes the most important moments happen when we stop performing and start connecting.